Now into the summer months and the dog days of summer. And summer months means that we get a lot of fun events going on, some of the off-the-grid sporting events, and we'll have one going on July 4th on our national holiday. It is the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, and to help us preview that, we bring in the voice of the contest, George Shea, joining us here on Odds On. George, we appreciate you taking the time this morning, or East Coast, you might be in the afternoon where you are at. But before we get into all the nitty-gritty, can you just set the stage of what Monday will be like with the Nathan's National Hot Dog Eating Contest?
Well, right. So we're back on the corner of Surf and Stillwell. COVID, we had to do it inside in 2020. And in 2021, we did it in a local minor league ballpark, baseball stadium. But this year, we're back on the corner where we've held the event since 1916. You're going to have the greatest eaters in the world. We have eaters from the UK, from Australia, from all around, obviously all around the US. And of course, the great Joey Chestnut, who has won 14 years. Last year, ate 76 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes. So he will be there, obviously, defending his title. He is the champion. And then Miki Sudo, the former female champion of the world, had to miss last year because she was about to give birth to her son. She's back this year trying to regain her title.
You mentioned Joey Chestnut and the success he's had. I'm looking at his numbers over the last decade or so in terms of just the volume going up 60, 61, then getting to 70, 72, 74, 75, and 76 the last 2 years, respectively. How is it that these people were able to increase these amounts by a fairly large amount? I mean, to go from 61 hot dogs to 76, that's a huge increase, almost 25%.
Yeah, well, and then add to that the fact that when he first did the 61, the contest was 12 minutes. We found an old document that said the contest used to be 10 minutes. We thought it was 12. So, I mean, this contest dates back decade after decade after decade. We changed the contest to 10 minutes. So when he was his arch rival, he and Kobayashi were competing in 2007, 8, 9. It was a 12-minute contest. They were eating low to mid-60s. Now Joey in a 10-minute contest eating 76. I think it's just he really understands how to manipulate the food, because it's not just like, do you have the stomach capacity for that? It's how do you actually manage the food and control it, get it in your mouth and swallow it in that limited time. So I think that's a key element. One thing I would say is we have a bunch of eaters in the 50 range, just a little bit more than 50, and many in the 40s. But, Joey is alone in the 70s, right? No one's ever been that high. And I don't believe he broke the record last year and the previous year. Last year, we had a beautiful 75-degree day. I mean, it was like a mid-June day. It was gorgeous and low humidity. So perfect conditions. The year prior, when he had broken the record as well, we were inside in air conditioning. So he's got to do this year. I don't think he's going to have those conditions.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff there. We're speaking with George Shea, the voice of the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest. You mentioned how Joey's kind of all by himself here, because I'm looking at the odds board for people who might be able to challenge Joey Chestnut. Jeffrey Esper, James Webb, these guys are 10-1, 17-1. So it's the betting market is, and everybody with common sense clearly thinks that Joey Chestnut's going to repeat and retain that mustard yellow belt there. But his prop right now is set at 74.5 hot dogs. You mentioned the conditions and what he's dealing with this year versus the years past there with COVID. Do you believe that he can go over 74.5, or do you think he might go under that number?
Interesting thing. I will reserve my own speculation, because since I am one of the officials at the event, but I will say this, a critical element here. I mentioned that we're outdoors. It's super hot and super humid. Those will be key conditions, right? But he also has struggled. He had a very badly broken leg this spring, and the recovery has been very slow. Now you're saying, it's his leg, it's not his jaw or his hands. But I think that if I were looking at that, I would wonder whether that would have any impact at all on his ability to focus. I'm not sure it would. He's a champion. He's a warrior. So, and his focus for this contest is like none other. So Jeffrey Esper has beaten Joey Chestnut, I think, 12 to 14 times in competition outside the fourth. He's never beaten him at the fourth because Joey is so focused on this event.
George, I know these guys consume a lot of food in preparation for this, but I've got to ask, I'm assuming you guys have medical personnel on standby for any reason anything goes awry. I mean, consuming this many hot dogs for the average person, just, could be pretty dangerous. I mean, how is it that so many of these people are able to sustain this without any issues?
Well, they have prepared for this, and over many years, no one is coming to the stage and eating 40 hot dogs, their first try. We always have a paramedic and a bus on an ambulance on the site. When we do an eating demonstration in a TV morning show, right, we're in Tempe or wherever we are, we do a morning show and we're going to show the anchors. We have a paramedic there. So we're very, very careful about that. And obviously we discourage any home training or anything like that. We have never had an incident, but we take it very seriously. And, clearly there's a, if we urge, you can't be doing this at home. We never market to kids. We get a lot of inquiries from kids magazines, kids platforms, media outlets. We never do that because we don't want that to, kids to be doing that.
George, you mentioned how Miki Sudo is coming off of taking the year off to have the birth of her child there. How do you think that's going to impact her now? Because the betting market thinks that she can pick up right back to where she left off, consuming 48.5 hot dogs in 2020 when she won the title that year. How do you think that the year off will affect Miki come Monday?
Once again, hard for me to speculate in my position, but I would not be surprised if she struggles to get to that 48 mark. She has, however, keep this in mind, she has, however, been out doing events on the circuit, none as big as the 4th of July, none with that pressure. But I think that Michelle Lesko, the current champion, is going to be in the mid-30s. And I think that if I had to guess, Miki would be above 40, well above 40. But I think the delta between her and number 2 is going to be enough to give her some comfort.
Real quick here, before we let you go here, George, what is your favorite way to dress a hot dog? I had to ask.
For me, it is mustard, Nathan's mustard, that sort of deli mustard, and sauerkraut. That's why I love it. I'm going to have one on the 4th of July. I will have one before that. But I love Nathan's, and for me, it's just simple mustard and sauerkraut.
Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?
Yes.
That's my favorite is Grey Poupon. Put a little Grey Poupon on there, maybe mix in a little mustard as well. You can't really go wrong with any of the hot dogs. He is George Shea, voice of the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest. Check that out Monday. The broadcast starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So the folks out here on the West Coast, you got to wake up early for that one, George. But appreciate you joining us, and all the best come Monday.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff there from George.